stop growth in the 70s. They have not achieved it. They're still working on it to slow growth down. And from my perspective, the best thing that we can do is to manage it well, and that is to build infrastructure, and that's people. That's the things physically in the ground, on the street, different additional roads, as well as have a strong plan so that you know how you're growing, you know how you need to direct growth in order to make sure that as we're a community of 150,000 or more, that the things that we've really enjoy about our community, the things that we hold dear, are things that still are cherished and protected and celebrated. And so what's important for us, and you'll see here the number of different plans that we have that are actively underway or getting updated, either are in the process, like our Parks Master Plan update, or going to be kicking off over this next year, like our Downtown Master Plan, as well as our Economic Development Strategy Plan. And so you can see here a number of different things that are on the list. And I won't list all of them out, but you can see it ranges from the physical environment of how we're developing as a city, from a planning standpoint and guiding commercial and residential growth. It also is addressing important things like making sure that we have water, making sure that our utility systems are adequately funded in order to be able to plan and address the infrastructure that we need, as well as roads, which we'll talk about all those things. And I think with that, I'll kick it off back over to the mayor to talk about water.
There is nothing that I think about and worry about more than water. That is where we are at as a state, as a region, and there is nothing that could halt the expansive growth in Texas faster than us to have a water shortage. I can tell you that we as a city are in great shape. That doesn't mean that we're not working very hard to make sure that we stay in great shape. As a region, we're pretty good. There are some that are better off than others, but we also realize as a city that this is a regional problem, and we don't want to be the only city that has plenty of water. We want to make sure that everyone in the region has water because it's a regional economy. And so we are working extremely hard on this. But you've got to understand that keeping up with the level of growth that we're seeing is a astronomical problem. Last year, we added 5,200 new water utility accounts to the water system. And that was the year before, 2020, we had 2,700 new accounts added, and that was a banner year, and we almost doubled that in 2021. So what are we doing? What are we doing to address this issue? First of all, you got to understand there's two different types of water. There's two different buckets of water. There's raw water and there's treated water. We have enough raw water based upon even very aggressive growth projections to get us through 2040. The question is, how can we treat it so that it can go into your home, that you can drink it, bathe in it, and do what 99% of you do with it, put it on your yard? Because that's the issue. When you see talking about the water crisis, the issue is for 6 weeks out of the year, can we water 1 day a week or 3 days a week? And so that's where we are blessed to be in a situation where that's our worst problem, is maybe only being able to water 1 day a week in August. But even that we are addressing through aggressive infrastructure expansion. We've started the North Lake plant expansion. Will be done by October. That's a $12 million project, and that'll increase our treated water capacity by about 11%. The South Lake water treatment plant, we decided late last year that was going to be done in phases. We decided to go ahead and just do it all at once. It's an expensive project, $170 million project, but that project is underway. The phase one will be done by spring of 2025, phase two by spring of 2026. That will double the capacity of our treated water, and that's a good thing. Simultaneously, conservation is obviously going going to play a huge role in getting us through the water crisis, or keeping us from having a water crisis. And so as new development comes online, we're going to try to encourage conservation measures in those new subdivisions. We're obviously encouraging it within the community. If you have seen, your rates have changed. Folks that want to be heavy water users are going to pay to be heavy water users. That the rest of the community is not going to subsidize that. We've actually stepped up our enforcement. We have days on which you can water and days on which you can't, and we're actually going to enforce those rules because conservation has to be a major component of making sure that we have enough water. The other thing we're doing is looking for more raw water. This is something that we're doing through the Brazos River Authority. In conjunction with the city of Round Rock, we've asked for folks with raw water to give us bids for what it would cost to go buy that from them and get it to us here in Central Texas. We should, in the early spring, start to see the results of that process and hopefully get under contract for some raw water that will allow us to continue to grow at the pace that we need to grow. The other kind of big long-term philosophy that the city of Georgetown has. Like I said, we have this giant water service area, our CCN. That water service area, it covers other cities in our region. Parts of Liberty Hill, parts of Florence, parts of Gerald are in our water service area. One of the things that we're long-term going to work through is making sure that the cities that want to take back some of that service area that's in their service area, if they can go find the water contracts they need to service that area, the city of Georgetown doesn't need to be we don't need to be in control of the other cities' water. And so you'll see us start to divest from some of those service areas. The process is happening right now with Gerald Schroeder Water taking over an area to the northeast of us, I guess. And then Gerald, Liberty Hill, and Florence and Leander have all expressed the desire to grab back some of their service areas. They've just got to have the water contracts in place because we're not going to abandon customers that are in our current water service area unless the folks who are going to take it over have the water to service that area. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to David for electric.
Great. Just to reinforce a couple things on water just before I get into electric. So, and talking about electric, there is no limitation on. So think about how much you've done, or how much technology has changed to allow for energy efficiency, right? Which is a great thing. But there is no limitation on the amount of energy that can be produced. I mean, they're from a technology standpoint, it can happen. What's different dramatically about water is that there are limitations. It's a limited resource. And so how we all work on that, how we think about it, how we change sometimes we're going to have to change our mindset. As the mayor showed, 75% of our water goes on our yards, and a bunch of that happens during that 8 weeks or so out of the year that we're really trying to keep our grass nice, lush, and green when it's 100 and whatever outside. So anyway, just thinking through and using technology to do that, I think it's going to be a part of the effort, in addition to spending a lot of money, as well as being creative about how we can maximize the resources in our area. On the electric front, what's really pleased to see that we've restored and are beyond our reserve minimums in the electric utility. Just to give you just a kind of point of reference on that, in 2019, our reserve level was at 5.9 million, and now it's over almost $37 million, which is a good thing. We also are working to manage the costs related to Winter Storm Uri. We experienced over 4 days of energy costs. We experienced $48 million worth of cost over those 4 days. You might say, wow, that's insane. That's a lot of money. It is a lot of money, considering that normally we spend about 60 million for the entire year for energy. But if you look at, all you have to do is look at the paper, whether it's the co-ops, other public power cities, we actually fared extremely well compared to other cities that are our size that have their own electric utility. That's not to pat ourselves on the back, it's just to mean that we were positioned probably as well as we could be during that winter storm. We have a 10-year repayment plan, but we're also, the council set a priority to repay that in an expedited manner. And so we're working towards that and reviewing options. Also, I mentioned this before about reliability, but we have the highest rating from a reliability standpoint. It's a diamond status, and it's for public power, and we saw that during the winter storm and the resiliency of our system, even after the load shedding. Like I mentioned, that our system was 99% back up and going, and a lot of that has to do with just our ability to be responsive. And address issues quickly, given the size of our utility. And it's also just the commitment from a staffing level and technology and infrastructure. And you're going to see that we're going to continue to focus on that. I was not to go too much into me, but I was recovering from shoulder surgery, and I'm doing physical therapy. And I promise you, the story is going to relate to transportation. You're like, what in the world is he talking about? And I went in to get my shoulder worked on, and someone new was helping me, and they said, "You're the city planner, right?" And I said, "Well, I'm great. I'm the city manager." And she said, "What do you think about roads?" And I said, "Well, I think everybody should get a bike and just, it's fine. I mean, we're okay." And she gave me this look. I'm like, "Which road would you like for us to get worked on?" She goes, "Westinghouse." I said, "Great. We're working on Westinghouse with the county." I get a good answer on that one. So our council, and as well as our county commissioners, are very focused and committed to transportation and transportation improvements. We are very appreciative of our community supporting the 2021 road bond. We've got a number of projects that are working on the road bond. In fact, we've sold the debt and are working to hire engineering firms to do design for a number of different roads. I'm going to get to that cheat sheet just so I don't miss any of those roads. So we are working on Shell Road, DB Wood to the south of Williams Drive. We're working on the Southeast Inner Loop. Rock Ride, expanding that roadway, and then building an Austin Avenue bridge, the separate pedestrian and bike bridge. Those are the first projects, as well as sidewalks, bike lanes, and intersection improvements. And then, so those are the kind of the first projects that are happening through the 2021 bond program. We are designing Leander Road. Leander Road has an expansion attached to it. And then we are working with Williamson County, and they're taking the lead on the design and the construction of Westinghouse. So the expansion of Westinghouse east of 1460, that is getting underway, as well as taking the Southwest bypass. Instead of turning right, a hard right on Wolf Ranch Parkway, it's going to go straight up north to 29 and provide that direct connection. That's something that's underway. The design's underway, and the county's taking the lead. And then also working on extending Sam Houston. So the Southeast Inner Loop, the vision is that inner loop is able to bypass downtown, so that people that are traveling from one city going east of us or west of us and traveling through and having to go on University through downtown, they no longer have to do that. They're able to bypass around and use that roadway. And so this will be the last connection of that bypass. It's going to take the Sam Houston Road. So you'll be able to take Interloop, go to Sam Houston, go over 130, and connect to 29. So if you're coming from the east and having to go through Georgetown, our hope is that Waze, when you put Waze in or whatever other device that you have that's showing you the fastest route, it says, "Oh no, you need to take this inner loop instead of going through downtown." That'll be part of how we manage our overall system. And then we also are continuing road work from previous bond programs. And so one of the last major projects is 971. That's the connection to Northwest Boulevard Bridge that we built that new connection coming down. You'll see it, the 971 getting realigned. And so that is working right now. And then we also just expanded the Southeastern Loop between Austin Avenue and 1460. So you're going to see that kind of expansion continue on in the new bond program. And then we are also working through finalizing the design for DB Woods to the north of University. And it'll be expanded to a 4-lane roadway all the way to Oak Ridge. And then we also have Southwestern Boulevard that'll be expanded to the south to Interloop. So from University to Interloop, it kind of narrows down there as you get closer to Interloop. That's going to be expanded as well. So if that sounds like a lot, it is a lot, but it's because we're growing so fast, and we need to stay committed to building. And my hope is that all of you come to us in the next 6 months or a year and say, why is there so much road construction happening in Georgetown? Because no pain, no gain on some of that. But just know that that'll be something we are going to experience quite a bit over the next several years. And it's important to stay committed and invested in that. We also have our street maintenance program that generates about $5 million a year to allow for our streets to be maintained extremely well. I was in the DFW area not that long ago and complained the whole way about their streets. I'm like, our streets are so much better. Now, I'm not saying we don't have room for improvement, but my point is that if you think about our most expensive asset, it's our streets. And what you want to do is you want to make sure that you treat it like your car, which you take it in for an oil change, you get it tuned up, you get the tires replaced. The time to deal with a car is not when the engine fails because you never change the oil. And think of roads the same way. It's important for us to maintain those roadways, do the smaller improvements first, less expensive stuff, to maintain the life of the roadway long term. So you're going to see us committed to that. We've actually got a 1/4-cent sales tax election that'll happen this November. It's in the past, it's been highly supported by our community. And then lastly, I wanted just from a transportation standpoint to address I-35. And I've got some good news and bad news on I-35 and the intersections in Georgetown. Good news is they're going to be improved. So if you're worried about 29 and the significant traffic there, good news is it's going to be redone. The bad news is it's going to be majorly redone. It's going to be an over $100 million project. Right now we have obviously Williams Drive, which you all are experiencing the Williams Drive interchange improvement. The next one is scheduled to be Leander Road. It's going to be a smaller improvement there. Westinghouse is also going to be completely redone. 29 will be completely redone. And those are going to be TxDOT projects, pretty much 100% funded by TxDOT. If you don't like the Divergent Diamond, you can talk to TxDOT. TxDOT, we said, hey, what if we want a different design other than the Divergent Diamond? They said, that's great. You can fund it yourself, and we'll just see what you do. And I think the response was, well, we could probably get used to the Divergent Diamond. We can make it work. We can make it work. So, and then lastly, what you'll see us do is, because the census has us over 50,000 population, we will now actually take over the TxDOT signals within Georgetown. That's a kind of a law that they have. It's going to take more for us to maintain it, but it's going to be better overall because it's going to allow for us to have a more integrated system to work on signal timing as well as we can. And so you'll see that happening over the next several months for us to take over about 30 intersections within the city that will now be under our kind of maintenance as well as our synchronization and control. With that, I'll hand it over to the mayor to talk about quality of life.
Yeah. So quality of life, water, electricity, and roads, you really don't appreciate till they don't work. And then you find out about them real fast. But with other stuff that we have going on in the city, it's stuff that we appreciate, that we all love about our community. And one of those that's huge is our parks. We just finished an update of our parks master plan. The Parks Department did a great job of engaging the community and coming up with our kind of 10-year plan for our parks that include Grace Heritage Plaza, the Heritage Community Gardens. I mean, one thing you're going to see that's going to be really neat over the very near future is kind of where the new City Hall, new council chambers are in the planning department. That whole area is going to transform. They did some really cool community engagement to design what that area is going to look like. So that's going to be one of those that I think you see really quickly. San Gabriel Park Phase 3 design is occurring right now. And then the San Gabriel Trail at Wolf Crossing from University Avenue to I-35 is going on, as well as there's parks, Pinnacle Park, Rain Tree Park, and we are actively trying to acquire land in the southeast for a larger community park in the southeast. But the other thing that is of the key most importance in Georgetown. I'm too close here. Public safety. And so, as we have said, public safety is a priority for this community. It will always be a priority for this community. We're not defunding the police department in Georgetown, Texas. We're funding the police department. We added 2 new patrol officers. Patrol is we feel like it's one of those ways that folks, experience public safety. If you see folks out on the street, you feel safer. So we added 2 new patrol officers, and we provided in our budget the ability to overstaff for up to 5 officers, and then also 11 folks in the fire department that we can overstaff for. Other thing that has been a long time in the making is a canine program, which we funded. Folks at WAC Heaven, appreciate that. Not the same dogs, but so that canine program is going to start this year. The community initiative that Chief Nero started, and that Chief Cheetah is continuing, has been extremely successful. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have our MLK Day celebration yesterday because some folks came down with COVID, but that initiative has been a real blessing in our community. The other things that we're working on is what are called small area plans for the San Jose and TRG. These are kind of in the downtown and west of downtown and south of downtown areas, historic African-American and Hispanic neighborhoods. And so one of the things we heard from those communities is they felt a lot of pressure from all of this growth, and that a lot of change was happening very, very fast for folks who'd been in this community for, over 100 years. And so we're trying to find a way to make sure that we don't lose that culture, those aspects of Georgetown that made it what it is today. And so we're working through those issues right now with the folks that are actually living in those neighborhoods, and our staff and council. And we've seen a lot of productive dialogue out of that. We're going to continue to update our future land use and comprehensive plan. One of the key things that we are looking at, that if you'll watch council, you can see that everything's kind of dull and boring, and then somebody brings up an apartment complex and the things get real exciting. But it's something that we are struggling through, not just Georgetown, but communities all over Texas, about making sure that we can balance quality growth that doesn't bankrupt the city, and yet still have a community where folks of all socioeconomic levels can live and work and thrive. And multifamily is a big component of trying to figure that out. And I'll tell you, it's a hard needle to thread, but we're working through that. And that's one of the things you're going to see us studying as we move forward. Other thing that we're going to do in the near future is update our Unified Development Code. And as we mentioned, we like to do things the opposite of the way Austin does them. Austin went through a 5-year process trying to work on their development code, and they still haven't gotten it figured out. What we're going to do is we are going to start from day one and make sure that all of the stakeholders, the entire community, is involved in this process from the beginning. And there are going to be disagreements, there are going to be fights, but we're going to get through that like Georgetown does, civilly and with the community as a whole in mind. And we're going to come up with a new development code that is going to make development, better in Georgetown, Texas, even than it is today. David?
Thank you, Mayor. So we're going to continue our commitments to customer service and really work on ways to better, for you to be able to better connect with the city of Georgetown. So that can look like services on those things that are really hard to get rid of at your house. So we're going to have more household hazardous waste events. So if you're trying to figure out what to do with those paint cans and other things of that nature, you're going to see better ways in which we can to connect to that. We've updated our phone system to allow for more capacity when we have bursting. When I say bursting calls, so that definitely happened during the winter storm event. We had thousands and thousands of people calling our phone system, and also we're working to. You'll see a full update to our website, which we haven't done in about 5 years, which is for a website is like 50 years, and so we're working to update that based on a new branding study and strategy that we've implemented in the city. We also are working to have more of a one-stop shop location for people to call or connect with, to like a 311 system. So you don't have to figure out who picks up. There's trash on the side of the road. Who does that in the city? Or, or there's a pothole, or there's something wrong in the park where there's a sprinkler head that's messing up or something like that. So we're working on ways in which you can better connect and help us in terms of providing better service. We're also working on ways for you to better connect. We started a Civic Leadership Academy as well. And I think we've got one person in here. We have anyone else that's in that? Oh, yes, 2 people in the Civic Leadership Academy. Oh, 3. There we go. Thank you. I'm sorry. I should have had y'all stand up. But that is just a way for you to better understand what's happening in the city, what are the services that we provide, and kind of how do you get better engaged. Really, we have 33 people that are in that. We plan to have 20. We're hoping to have 20. We have 33, which is excellent. Meet on a monthly basis, and we'll be doing that over and over again. So that's a plug for you to consider it in the future. We also, the council's gone through a number of things from a planning or administration governance standpoint, whether it be going through the charter election or finishing up redistricting, which will inform the elections over this next May, which is the elections that are coming up for District 3, 4, and 7. And then we also are continuing to work from our end, from the city staff end, on performance management. That includes lean training and things that we're doing to figure out ways in which we can do things better, improve our processes, and then also show how we are delivering on our services, and do that from a quantitative standpoint. So you can check that out on our website to see our progress. And with that, I just wanted to make another plug that another election that you'll see. So the 2 elections that the city has coming up, planned right now, is in May for District 3, 4, and 7. And then in November, we'll have our quarter-cent sales tax for street maintenance. I'll hand it over to the mayor to do economic development.
Economic development. So Michaela Dollar and her team are excellent, and they head up our economic development. I think you've seen kind of 2 trends that have occurred over the past 5 to 10 years. One of those is economic development in Central Texas going out and begging folks to come to Central Texas. That's not what Michaela does anymore. Now Michaela, and I think her job may be harder because now she's got to sift through the literally hundreds of companies that want to come to Texas and make sure that, one, that we're getting the right types of folks coming into the community, folks that are going to be an asset to the community, and making sure that these folks are legitimate, making sure that we're not giving away the farm to get them here. And so there's lots of people, you can open the newspaper every morning and see all the people that want to be here. The other trend is, folks would move here and we go, God, I hope there's going to be jobs for them, when they move here from California. Now it's the opposite. The companies are coming, and we sure hope that there's going to be enough people to work in these companies when they open up. As you sit around talk here this morning, I'm sure at every single table, the discussion has been the labor market, and can we get enough human beings here that are able to fill these great high-paying jobs that are coming to Texas. And so I think those are kind of the 2 of the trends you've seen. We had 9 major projects announced last year, total of $422 million in investment and 382 new jobs in Georgetown. And I want to guarantee you, I'm very hopeful that we're going to dwarf that number maybe in the first quarter of this year. Some highlights. Ubiquity. There is a new internet provider coming to Georgetown. I know. Kevin Pitts finally talked David Morgan into allowing another internet company. David has said we don't need it.
That is not true.
The city of Georgetown does not decide which internet providers can operate in the city of Georgetown, but we have been actively encouraging new companies to come into the marketplace. We're very excited about Ubiquity coming into the marketplace, and they're hitting the ground running, and we're working through permitting processes to make that as smooth as possible for them. We have heard you. We have received your emails. We have read your Facebook comments. We are aware of the desire for a new internet company, and we're working very hard to do that. Another big one for me is Texas Outdoor Power. Those folks are a local company that we were able to retain. And I think that that's one other trend you're going to see in economic development is, hey, yeah, we got all these California companies knocking on our door, but we got some great homegrown companies here in Central Texas that we want to keep here, that have had longtime employees, that have invested in our community, back before others wanted to come here. And so we're going to pay special focus on retaining good companies as well. Others, we've got, the kind of development trend that you're seeing in these light industrial parks. Folks are coming and they want to bring manufacturing back to the United States, back to Texas, which I think is a wonderful thing. We want jobs like that in our community. And so you're seeing a lot of these light industrial parks. This is not the old, battery smelting plants. These things are nicer than Class A office space. And so we're really excited to have those projects in our community. So you've seen Titan 1 and Titan 2. We've got Stone Lake is doing a park as well. Woodgate Business Park, Portman Industrial. We anticipate at some point, like you see all these announcements, Amazon putting in distribution centers at some point, that's going to happen at one of those parks. We don't know where or when yet, but we anticipate that. The other major trend that is near and dear to my heart is downtown. I think everyone in this room will agree that the square is the heart of our community. It's where our culture is centered. It's where we all want to be, apparently, because if you go down there any day of the week, I'm telling you, my office is downtown, and the shift in the middle of COVID, the last 18 months, 2 years has been phenomenal. We'll go out 2:00 on a Tuesday afternoon. There'll be 100 people walking around the square. And I don't know who these people are, where they came from, what they're doing, but they're having a great time. And so we have seen a record $20 million invested in downtown. And that's a combination of new construction, renovating, our historic buildings, historic assets. 10 new businesses have opened just in 2021. Tejas, Foundry 22, District 6, Mikey V's, Hydrate, City Post, Kilwins, Grow Salon, Wishwell House, and Good Folks, all of which are booming so much that I can't even get in there to get a table to have dinner. We've also been working on, as you've seen, another one of those things that's going to be a nice, vibrant community discussion is parking downtown. If you have been downtown, you've recognized that we need to provide parking as a public utility in the downtown area so that our businesses down there can thrive. We don't want on-site parking at downtown businesses. That is not how you make a historic district thrive, but we have to provide the parking so that folks can get in and out of that area easily. We're going to have several downtown parking garages. Buckle up. It's going to happen. We're going to have like I said, a vibrant discussion about where the first one goes and what it looks like. And then 10 years from now, folks won't remember what we were fighting about because they're going to be really excited that we have this asset for our community. All right, David.
Just on parking as well. One of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that we limit the people parking in the adjacent neighborhoods. And so people are going to park somewhere. They're going to take the path of least resistance, which is usually the closest thing they can park, a place they can park. And so a lot of times that will mean if you don't provide adequate parking, they'll park in residential areas where people don't want other folks parking right in front of their house all the time. The other thing I just mentioned on parking is if we can look up the minutes, I can prove it to you. But we've been debating parking in Georgetown since like horse and buggy. I think they were complaining about parking and where do people parking horse and buggies in downtown Georgetown. So definitely been something a part of our history. One of the great traditions of Georgetown is a commitment to our arts and events. You're going to see that continue to grow. We're doing that in a couple different ways. Obviously, we're bringing back events as well as expanding certain events that you'll see. We actually have a barbecue and kind of country music festival that's happening on June 4th out at Gary Park called the Troubadour Festival. And so you'll take a look at that. That's a company that's going to be providing that there. You're going to see more events happening in downtown as well as St. Gabriel Park. And then you're going to also see us grow from an arts district standpoint. We do have a vibrant arts district. You can see that in a lot of different ways in our downtown. We're also going to be taking up a little bit of the parking next to the Grace Heritage Center and expanding the park, a heritage park there, and creating space for more art and more programming as well. We're calling that the South Main Arts District, and you'll see more to come on that front. In terms of the mayor indicated, one of the ways in which we track economic health locally is through sales tax. You can see here that sales tax went up 25% over last year. And the year you might say, well, that's coming out of COVID. That's kind of unique. Well, we had a 15% growth during 2020. So that is not necessarily a COVID dynamic. And we've actually had a 43% growth in sales tax over the last 3 years. And we're continuing to see that be healthy. It's not only healthy across the city, it's healthy in downtown. We had a 23% growth in sales tax in downtown last year. And so that's good from an economic growth and vitality standpoint. And then it ties to some other things that we're able to do in terms of provide good value. And this is a hard chart to see. I'm going to summarize it in two different ways. First of all, we compare ourselves in terms of what does it cost for a resident to live in Georgetown, and then we match that up to all the different fees that are paid for in comparable cities. And see here in Central Texas, we're consistently in about the third lowest cost in the region when you add up all the different types of costs. So that's obviously property tax, that's utility expenses, all the other fees that you might pay, sanitation, things of that nature. And then the other thing is we are the second lowest tax rate in Central Texas. And that is because of because of the balance we have in terms of our growing commercial tax base. If you think about cost of service, and you can imagine it costs more to serve a residential area than it does a commercial area. So the stronger our commercial tax base is, the more it can offset the burden to our residential on the residential side. And so I think that's why really pushing on creating jobs and creating value through economic development is so important. Not only create wealth locally for residents, but it's also to help lower the tax burden for residents as well. With that, I'll hand it over to the mayor to kind of wrap us up.
So as you can see, we have got a lot going on. This is a very dynamic environment. And the main goal we have right now is just trying to hold on tight and ride this tiger and make sure that we are able to provide the services to this community that you desire, that you want, that you need. And just providing, we said this at our board council retreat in December, just providing the basic services of a city, roads, fire, police, water, electricity, through this massive expansion is going to be a monumental task. But we're going to try to go above and beyond that, not just provide the basic services, but provide a quality of life that makes you want to stay in this community, even though it is growing, even though it is changing, that makes other folks want to join us here, that makes us want them to bring their businesses here, to invest in this community, to raise their families in this community. And I can promise you that you guys have done a great job of electing a great council. It is an absolute pleasure to serve with these folks. The council has done a great job in hiring this guy, and he has done a great job of hiring and empowering his staff. It's amazing. Over the last year or so, I've gotten to interact with other cities and other city staffs, and I can tell you that we have first class, the best folks in the state of Texas working for us. And yeah, give them a hand. And that's because they recognize that they want to live in this community and they want to raise their families in this community. So we're able to attract folks here. And so we thank so much for the chamber allowing us the opportunity to do this. We thank you for the chamber for everything they do in this community. All of everything we've talked about here today would not happen but for the chamber and its role and the business owners that participate in the chamber. So we thank y'all very much. I'll turn it back over to Nick.
Thank you, gentlemen. We are coming up on door prizes. Is there a basket going around? And a couple closing remarks. Kayleen, are you doing those, or is Dana doing those from the chamber?
Brittany, are you going to do announcements?
Brittany, up, coming up. And she's the photographer. There is a QR code on your table if you wouldn't mind snapping that and letting us know how we are doing. Any feedback is welcome, especially if you have positive or negative feedback. Please leave your name so that it's just not a one and we have no idea what you want improved. Thank you.
Before we do chamber announcements, speakers, mayor, and city manager, would it be okay if we answer questions?
Sure.
Let's do questions in the room first, and then we'll see if we've got any online. Anybody got a question?
I have a comment.
Sure.
I just want to say that I really appreciate all the improvements to the sidewalks and entrances and exits of the different walkways. A lot of those were very treacherous for my mom, who uses some assistance to walk, and it's been much nicer since those improvements. So thank you.
For folks online who may not have heard that, just talked about the improvements in downtown sidewalks and the kind of the ramps leading up to the sidewalks. We absolutely prioritize that, and I think it looks great. And I think it's a lot safer for folks as they're walking around.
Can somebody explain to me where the $48 million came from and why it happened? And I mean, every city, everybody seemed to got hit with all that expense during the freeze.
I'll try to give the
and
30
nobody's
second
been
again.
responsible enough to tell me where the hell did that come from and whose authority it came under.
So I'm going to give you the 30-second answer to that because it's really about a 30-hour answer. The answer is we have an unregulated electric market in Texas, which means that prices are what they are. And so while on an average day, we may be spending $30 per kilowatt hour, on the high side, during the height of the storm, we were paying $9,000 per kilowatt hour for the cheapest electricity. And then we had to pay an even higher amount for what's called ancillary services, which was this concept that, well, we're going to make you buy additional electricity that's not even there yet, but you have to buy it. And it's going to be at basically an uncapped amount. That $9,000 was capped by ERCOT and the PUC during the midst of the storm, but it was at $9,000 for, a record number of days, 3 days, 4 days. So here's the difficulty is the electric generators were paying just as much, if not more, to the natural gas providers that were providing the natural gas so that they could run the power plant. And this is when you get into extremely complex areas of international law. And the international natural gas market is also it's a marketplace. And, our pension funds are invested in natural gas providers, and those natural gas providers were allowed to, up their prices to whatever folks were willing to pay. And in 4 days of deadly temperatures, the market just went out of whack completely. Like David said, we were extremely well hedged during the storm, 80% hedged, where we had locked. So this is what's real scary. We did a great job and we had locked in prices at a more reasonable amount for about 80% of our energy. So that 48 million was really 20% of our energy that we got hammered for. And that's why you saw, one of the oldest electric co-ops in the state filed bankruptcy. All of these, 1.2 billion in the 4 days. Other cities of our size, over $200 million for the 4 days. There are, what you saw in the legislative session, because remember the session had just started when all this stuff had started, was that a lot of folks in this state, it was made clear that they did not understand how this system worked, including very, very important, powerful folks who had decision-making authority over this system did not understand how it worked. The marketplace has had some adjustments made to it through legislation. Resiliency is a big deal. part of the reason that the prices shot up is because so much generation was out, which honestly was a somewhat planned occurrence. This was not supposed to be a time of the year when there was a ton of, so some of these were intentionally down for maintenance. And, what we learned was, hey, guess what? You don't just walk back in and flip the switch and start the power plant back up. It takes, 6 weeks. And so, you knew the storm was coming a week ahead of time. Great. That doesn't do us any good. So no.
I will say that they fixed they've worked on some of the things too, because the cap of 9,000 has been lowered to 4,500. But the reason they have that cap so high is because they're trying to incent people to get into the market. So it's all about incenting people during scarcity to get into the market and produce as much as they can. The downside is that just but there's just really systems not designed for the kind of outages that we experienced over the period of time that we experienced. Those peak 4,500 or 9,000 per kilowatt hour costs are intended to be for minutes sometimes, right? Not for days. And so some of that's been addressed. Some of the resiliency things are going to require multiple years to be addressed. And there's legislation that's passed to really help make sure that those things happen, but you can't make power plants completely upgrade and change within a 6-month period of time. And so they're going to take several years to get through.
Where the head utilities came in, shared with us all this information,
Yeah.
as well as what y'all went through on a minute by minute basis.
Yes.
And I was awed at what y'all did.
So there was, and thank you for the chamber. We hosted an event to really talk about that more detail. Daniel Bethapudi, our general manager of electric, provided a good presentation on that about how it affected us, what was happening across the state. And really what's scary is, you want to be really scared. And I'll never forget this, it was about 3:00 in the morning, watching what was happening in ERCOT and recognizing we're minutes away from the grid just going down and taking weeks to come back up. And so we, as bad as it was, we avoided extreme catastrophe within minutes. And that was ERCOT's fast response to try and shut the power demand down as much as we could, or as much as they could, within a very few minutes, handful of minutes.
And then this is the last question.
And on a lighter note, last year, your number one question was Costco. Where does that rank in questions, and what's the update on that?
That is number 2 in questions. Number 1 is, how are we fixing the Chick-fil-A line at Wolf Ranch Town Center? And I will say that Chick-fil-A is working to improve that, because usually my answer is I don't work for Chick-fil-A, but I'm happy to pass along to someone who does work for Chick-fil-A. But Costco, yes, they've announced that they're going to start construction this year. I anticipate that they'll break ground. I mean, I don't work for Costco, but I anticipate they'll break ground before the summer, which will be great for everyone to see. But the rumor I'm starting is that Chick-fil-A is opening a second location by the Costco. So if I say that enough, I'm waiting for a cease and desist letter from Chick-fil-A on that, because there's no truth behind it. But I'm just thinking, if I think positive thoughts, it's like, hey, I think Chick-fil-A should go next to the Costco. I mean, I think it'd be great. So anyway.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. And I realize that no one is leaving because they all want to partake in these door prizes. Sorry, those of you on Zoom, but your door prize was you got to stay at home. All right. So first, we will give away our wonderful coffee from Community Impact, the coffee chat from Ann Miller, which is a Community Impact coffee mug, and a wonderful Sweet Lemon Kitchen gift certificate. So you'll get this, and then you can connect with Ann, and you have someone has the basket, don't you? Yes. Okay. So you can pick the winner. I know you're all on your edge of your seat, and the winner is Chris from ABC. Here, will you hand that to Chris? All right, our next one, and if that wasn't good enough, if you really want to sit back and relax and maybe get a massage, you could do that with Anthony Medical and Chiropractic. And that goes to Eddie Harbor from Community Impact. All right. And our best one, maybe our last one, the Central Texas Technology Solutions is giving away a certificate of security, and you can get a dark web scan from them. And although we like our chocolate dark, we don't like our web dark. So they're giving you a Cohen's chocolate gift certificate. And that winner is Jonathan Briscoe from Texel. Jonathan, where's Jonathan? Jonathan. Oh, there you go. Excellent. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.